Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 677 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, and it is a cloudy-ish day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Got a good show for you today, but before we get into it, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
I think I'm okay. That's the truthful. I mean, I did start off the day by I made a pot of Earl Grey tea, and I grabbed my mug and I neglected to rinse it, and it had a little bit of coffee left in it. So I poured a cup of tea and I sat down and I took one sip and went, "That ain't right." This is what happens when I don't have coffee. I'm not awake in the morning, so trying to make some tea to have something, and it just that's not. There was like literally a little bit of coffee, and I went to rinse my mug out, and I just forgot. I don't know. I just half asleep, and yeah, that was not exactly a welcome way to start my day. That may have an adverse effect on my mental health at some point later. I don't know. It's not very good. I can't even begin to describe the taste. Dirt, maybe? Because, I mean, I drink my coffee black and bitter, and that's how I'm accustomed to it. And if you give me a double-double, I'll freak out. So, and this is an Earl Grey tea, so the bergamot mixed in with the coffee, and it was yesterday's coffee, and it was like about that much left in the cup, and I don't know. Normally, I just rinse it out quickly and take the thing, and I didn't for some reason, and yeah, that was bad.
That's bad. I don't touch coffee, and I can imagine how bad that is.
Yeah, it's bad.
Jeez, yeah. Get Scubs, I'm doing well. I saw some chat early in previous episodes. They're asking about my foot. Thank you for asking. Doing well. A lot of the swelling has gone down. I've been doing better at keeping it elevated at bedtime. And more during the day because I wasn't particularly as disciplined on that as I needed to be earlier on because I was trying to get stuff done. They are, well, at least when I start the day, they are now similar size. when I end the day, they're not similar size, but at least when I start the day, they're similar size. So that's a win. I will take that. And yeah, every day I'm able to progressively put more weight on it and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of good. But still, get some weird pain from weird compensation. Sometimes just like keeping the foot up a bit like that when I'm walking rather than going all the way down. I'm not confident yet, so I don't trust trying
Mhm.
to roll. With the boot, however, I can because the way that the boot is shaped, uh, it's like higher at one end and lower, so I can put the heel and sort of roll. So I am sort of practicing with the boot, trying to roll the foot to take proper steps rather than just like taking my foot off the ground and lowering it down. But yeah, uh, more progress and all that kind of stuff, more mobility, more ability to do stuff, a little more independence, like I mentioned yesterday, which is a good thing, a very, very, very good thing. So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm feeling better about stuff, but still very, very, very much missing tennis. Although I have to say, given the weather that we've had over the past month, lots of rain and lots of gray, and then just this ridiculous heat. I looked at the weather report yesterday. It was at 31 outside, feels like 41.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was
Yeah.
pretty hot. Not gonna lie.
There was no time during the day yesterday that had my foot been well, despite the bright sunshine, that I would have been able to play tennis.
Mm.
Like even at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, it was still like feels like 30 something. It's like, yeah, like high 30s. It's like, no, 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 we're not doing that.
I was out for about 45 minutes with Lola yesterday afternoon, and ordinarily she wants to stay out as long as possible, but after 45 minutes, she was kind of like, Can we go now? Can we go now?"
Oh yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So wherever you are, if you are affected by this heat dome, I think we might be in the final days of it. Please do stay cool. Um, there's certain cities that have opened cooling centers. If you live a little bit online, you've seen some people make some types of comments like, "When we were young, we didn't have warm cooling centers. I don't know why we need them." It's like, well, we also tend to have more homeless people now who
Along with
don't
the
have
fact
access to
that
water.
longer, hotter days, uh, more hotter days,
Yeah,
uh, larger population. It's
more concrete.
don't compare your childhood to today
Yeah,
because you sound like an idiot.
higher temperatures.
Look,
We toughed it out. There's a lot of people that died of heat back then too. Yeah.
yes, well, you realize we're at almost 42 million people. It's not that long ago we were at 30, right?
Right. But there's this whole sort of dynamic. I don't know what it is that's going on. This with this manosphere thing that everything is like put through this binary lens of like strong and wimps. It's like the body can tolerate so much heat, and that's it. You're not a wimp.
Yeah.
Dying, staying at home and say, I died of dehydration is not something to be
It's not
proud
a
of.
badge. It's not a badge of honor.
It's not a sign of strength.
Well, and
It's a
and
sign of like a couple of sandwiches missing from your picnic.
well, and I've
If
always
you
thought it was
choose that,
weird to brag about working 60, 80 hours a week. I don't like working hours like that. And guys, how many did you work? "Yeah, I did 120." Like, what is wrong with you? Why do
yeah,
you I wanna work 37 and a half. That's it.
yeah,
That's it.
maybe like no 45, maybe 50 if it's something I'm super passionate about that like benefits me directly, on occasion, not
Yeah.
on a regular basis. But yeah, it's like I just like I spent all my life working. Okay, but you do realize you missed out on a lot of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I
Like there's
know
more
that.
to life. I mean, there's you either live to work or work to live,
I do not live to work. I work to live.
right?
And I'm, not even doing that right now, so
But you got something coming up.
yeah, I got a couple things on the
Yeah,
horizon. Couple things on the horizon.
yes. Oh, so exciting. I'm so happy for you. You got two cool things coming up. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And from
Yeah.
Christian, we were programmed that way. You're correct. We were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because our overlords, the billionaire that run these major corporations, try and convince us that it's a good thing to do that
Oh yeah.
because that means they get more out of us.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned, like the other day when what's his face south of us was, I can't believe we're working.
Yeah. Too many
We
non-working
yeah,
holidays.
too many non-working holidays. There's these other clips that I sometimes see on YouTube. It's these animated things where a character named Veronica, who's like really like asserting herself all
Yes.
the time. And it's like,
Yes.
we called you in for a meeting this morning, but we saw that you left at half an hour early. Says, well, you called me for a pre-work meeting that started at 7:30. My shift doesn't start till 8, so I left at 4:30. Well, yeah, it's just because nobody else does that. Well, so are you going to pay me for the extra time? Well, no, it's just that, well, I'm not going to stay then.
Exactly.
So, but everybody else does, and it would just be really nice if you like,
Unfair.
no, pay me. I
Pay me.
love those ones because
Yeah.
the manager's voice
Mhm.
is that like, well, that sort of like soft, sort of sing-songy, lull you
We're
in.
family here. We want team players. You're not my family. I have a family. You don't
Exactly.
pay me enough money. If you were my family, you would take better care of me.
Exactly. I left half an hour earlier to spend time with my actual
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
It's like, I love them because the on the other side, Veronica, just like she has no F's left to give, but she's assertive but not aggressive,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I
There's a
really,
difference.
really like that. It's just
A woman.
it's 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 almost instructional video to
It
like
is. It
how
is.
deal with it if it happens to you.
There's a couple of different ones. There's a woman out of Vancouver who does a series like this as well, and hers are YouTube shorts. They're live, and she plays both characters, and
Okay.
it's quite funny. And her catchphrase is "Toodaloo," and she has a mug. Okay, so her mug, the handle is blackened out, and it says UNT, University of yeah, Toodaloo.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah,
Um,
it just says UNT, but it's a white mug with black lettering UNT, and the handle is blacked out. So it's kind of see you next time.
exactly. Ah, um, we didn't mention it yesterday, because, I don't know, it just slipped my mind, and it shouldn't have because I am a proud Franco-Ontarian, but, yesterday was la Saint-Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah, yes,
So,
yes,
b bonne Saint-Jean en retard à tous nos auditeurs et auditrices francophones, wherever you are from coast to coast to coast. And yesterday, I saw this groovy little graphic on that was made available by the House of Commons to celebrate it, and it was a map of Canada that had the various um, flags of francophone cultures in it. And I thought it was just such a cool graphic, so I'll just put it in Cubs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm just making
Yeah,
it a
it's
little
got all the
bigger there.
provincial flags on each province. Yeah,
Yeah, so here you've got the
the
Acadian one
Acadian,
covering these like this, and then les
Newfoundland
Franco-Terneviens
and Labrador.
Québécois. Yeah, and then you've got the Franco-Ontarian flag, les Franco-Manitobains, Fransaskois, Franco-Albertains, Franco-Britanno-Colombiens, Franco-Yukonais. And then I don't know how you say the Franca from Terre because Terre.
Northwest Territories.
Yeah, but like it actually dawned to me when I was trying to figure it out, sitting there like, what do you call someone from the Northwest Territories? A Northwest Territorian?
I,
I've never actually,
it's a good question. I don't know.
right?
I'll ask. I'll ask somebody.
And then the francophones from Nunavut as well. So yeah, just a really cool graphic because there are flags that exist that we don't get to see all that often, and yeah. So for all those who are celebrating, because often also when we talk about the Saint Jean Baptiste, it's often deemed as la fête des Québécois specifically, but it is the day of francophones as well. So wherever you are from coast to coast to coast. Si vous parlez la langue de Molière, bonne fête. There you go.
And it's often referred to in the province of Quebec as La Fête Nationale, but I have a
Yes.
lot of um, Québécois friends and family who do not refer to it as that. They refer to it as Saint-Jean-Baptiste because La Fête Nationale is July 1st.
Yes. Yes. Again, depending what side of that ledger you are ideologically.
But technically, that's the correct term.
Yes.
La Fête Nationale would be July 1st, Canada Day.
Yeah.
Saint-Jean-Baptiste is Saint-Jean-Baptiste. That's it. It's a provincial holiday in Quebec, but it's not,
Yeah. But since we have all this talk in Canada about nations and who is a nation and what constitute a nation and that, the Québécois as a culture and Francophones, you could be considered are a nation as well, just not a country. And then national in French has both meanings. They're spelled the same way and they sound the same way, but they have two different meanings depending on the context in which you're using it. I remember this comic I saw once around the time of, I think it was Parisot, because they were putting National on everything.
Okay.
So it was like he's at the podium. It's like the podium national and the glass of water national and just everything had national on it. So it was like, Anyway, whatever side you're on, I hope that you had wonderful celebrations. Saint-Jean-Baptiste obviously has lots of cultural elements and music and celebrations, and artists come from all over the province and all over Canada to celebrate it. So it's usually just a very, very, very good time. I'm finding, I've always found, like, in certain areas, I'm sure there's probably more of a political element to it, but generally it's just a good time. A really fun party with good music and good people and, joie de vivre and all that kind of stuff. So, great stuff. So everybody celebrated. And it's kind of weird because when I was a kid back in Ottawa, that used to be when we had the Festival Franco-Ontarien at the same time. And Saint-Jean would happen. But then I guess later on, there was a Journée des Franco-Ontariens that's sometime in September, I think, around September 26th. And then things kind of sort of got moved so that we're not doing a Franco-Ontarian Day on the same day as Saint-Jean-Baptiste.
But, it was June 12th, 13th, and 14th.
La Journée des Franco-Ontariens?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was in September. Oh, okay. See, there we go. I'm wrong about it.
Here.
See, I'm wrong about it.
Yeah. Well, it used to get a lot more press, but honestly, I didn't even know it was happening this year.
The festival pretty much disappeared. Like when I was a kid, it was a school outing every year.
50 years in style, June 12th, 13th, 14th, 2025. Buy your tickets. Well, obviously not, but I didn't know anything about it. Honest to goodness, I didn't know anything about it. And usually, Ottawa, like, if I'll show the website here. I'll put it on screen for those of you who'd like to see it. Country, Ottawa, Province of Ontario. These are the sponsors.
Yeah.
All along the bottom here. And I'm like, well, how did I not know anything about it? Because I literally didn't know.
Huh. Wow. Okay.
I don't even know where it was held.
Yeah, interesting. So, I was not mistaken. La Journée des Franco-Ontariens, the day is September 25th, but the festival is in June, so it doesn't coincide.
No.
I don't understand it.
I'm very confused right now. Oh, La Cité Collégiale, Café Communal La Cité Collégiale. I guess it was at La Cité Collégiale, but it doesn't.
That would make sense. Because La Cité Collégiale is the first fully French institution, post-secondary college in Ontario that's full French. We still don't have a university. We've been waiting over 150 years for that now. And Doug Ford, there was a plan for one, but Doug Ford decided to cut the funding to it. So apparently,
so his friends could open strip mall universities.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're still waiting for an autonomous French language university in Ontario, but we do have an autonomous French language college. That's La Cité Collégiale.
I would say that Ottawa U would be as close to that as you can get.
Yeah, we had two officially bilinguals, Laurentian and Sudbury, and Ottawa U, but no autonomous one specifically. So there's no equivalent of McGill for francophones in Ontario.
No. No.
right? For example. So we're still waiting. We're still fighting for it. We're
Don't
still
hold your breath
advocating
with the
for it.
current government.
Yeah, no. I mean, the current government has a premier who's been in power for so long that hasn't even bothered to learn a lick of French and can't show up to. There's hardly even been there hasn't even been a French language debate in Ontario for the longest time,
And he
officially,
wants to be prime minister.
right? So, the last time I saw something relative to a French debate, it was I think it was like 2 elections ago where none of them spoke French really, and all party leaders sent a representative from their party who could speak French to be on the stage. So it's like we couldn't even hear from the party leaders.
Yeah.
And it was like hardly televised. It was just like on the web. I mean, the services for Franco-Ontarians have really taken a dive. Let's just put it that way over the past little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think the last big rallying point is when they were trying to close the Montfort on us, Montfort Hospital, which was the French language teaching hospital. They're saying, "Now you guys don't need that." It's like,
And that was
yeah,
Mark
we
Carney.
do.
Well, it was the local community that rallied it. And well, here at the time, I know he was cutting it for a different reason.
Yes.
But at the time, the hospital it had been underfunded for decades and was falling apart.
Yes.
So the local community rallied. They saved the hospital, and then they reconstructed it.
Yep.
Now it's one of the best hospitals in the region. It's the newest one because it's completely redone from top to bottom.
Right.
And my dad's been taken there before I've been taken there. It's a good hospital. It's probably one of the best ones to go to right now, just simply by the virtue of the fact that it's increased the number of beds, increased the emergency room size. It's just better. Period.
Yeah, but it was the only, again, like a teaching hospital. So, well, you can do it at the general. Yes, but not everybody there speaks French. Like, it's a
You got to
teaching
serve your
hospital for
entire community, right?
exactly. So it's like you got to have people an opportunity to work in French and use all the jargon in French and and all that kind of stuff and interact. And there are cultural differences, and all of that. And it's not just francophones from Canada. I mean, we're a pluralistic society now. We have francophones that immigrate from other places, right?
Correct. And they don't just go to Quebec.
Right. So, yeah, it was at one point we're just sitting there like, why would you cut that?
Well, again, was Mike Harris.
Yeah,
He's cutting healthcare left, right, and center.
I know.
And then more cuts under Dalton McGuinty's government, and more cuts under Doug Ford's government. Look, they just want to privatize it.
Yeah, yeah. Also, happy birthday, Kit Jillian.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yay. Pause up. In Manitoba, quick little note here, Premier Wab Kinew has announced that Manitoba has now opened a trade office in Washington, D.C. We mentioned a couple of times over the show that there was an MLA from Alberta that had, I think Nathan Cooper's his name is, had stepped down, was the speaker, to be their representative in Washington, D.C. Well, it seems that Manitoba has given themselves a representative as well. So, and it will be led by former White House correspondent Richard Madden, the name that you've heard from the news.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there we go. Manitoba taking a bit of a bigger step on the international scene. So that's a good move. Again, Premier Wab Kinew doing some good things for the province. Also,
49th, I want to make a mention of this because this is important because we will see dramatic changes under this man. New mayor of New York City, Zoran Mandani, 33-year-old Queens lawmaker, quickly rose from relative obscurity. Andrew Cuomo conceded, and Cuomo was expected to win because he had a simple back, right? But no, people got out and voted for this guy. Now, here's the thing. His mandate is to lower living costs in New York City. Housing, rental, you name it, right across the board. And people said, oh, it's pie in the sky socialism. And every economist that looked at his plan said, no, this actually makes perfect sense. This will work. This is what we should be doing in every city. And he got elected. So this is a good thing. This is the pushback against populism and right-wing capitalism, conservatism that literally wants to grind you into dust.
Yep, exactly. And it was like sort of a late surge because I think up until 2 weeks ago, the polls were still indicating that Cuomo was going to win. And then something turned at some point. So good for him and good for the state of New York.
Yeah.
And this right here, just a image here for you kids. There's Mr. Madden here talking with Wob Canoe, getting his assignment. So hope that everything goes well and that the transition to diplomatic life from journalism goes very well for him, because Manitoba definitely has a lot to offer the world and should definitely have a trade office in Washington, D.C. So it's a good move. Fully supportive. Also, before we get into it, 2 days ago on June 23rd was the 40th year since Air India Flight 182 took off from a Montreal airport, and as it approached Ireland, a bomb in a suitcase exploded in its hold. All 329 people, innocent civilians, including 268 Canadians on board the plane, lost their lives. It's been called Canada's worst act of terrorism and remains the deadliest attack in Canadian history. Prime Minister Carney had a statement on the day, and it read, "As we mark the National Day of Remembrance for victims of terrorism, we remember the victims of the Air India bombing and all others who have lost their lives to terrorism. Canada will continue to work with our allies and partners at home and around the world to better detect, prevent, and respond to the threat of terrorism and violent extremism. Canada's new government unequivocally stands against terrorism, and we will deliver on our mandate of change to keep communities safe." And if you go to the CBC's YouTube page, and I'm sure on GEM, there is a documentary about those events. I'm not sure if it's a new one or an old one that's just been re-upped, but that you can watch. And if that's a subject that's interesting to you, or if you're interested in the history of our nation with regard to that. But yes, I didn't hear much about it on the day, because it is a big significant event. But yes, it did happen, and it was noted, and the Prime Minister did address it, because it affected a lot of lives. A lot of lives were forever changed on that day.
I remember that well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's 1985, so it was like, before 9/11 and before all that kind of stuff. And, it was, I remember as a kid, it was like on the news all the time for the longest time. And that was like before we had 24-hour news, right? So, we just see it, and stories lasted longer.
Now,
right?
remind me if that was the aircraft that salvage teams went out quickly looking for its cargo, which I'm told was several $1 million worth of gold bullion.
That might have been it. I'm not sure, because there was another one.
Yeah, they're off the coast of Nova Scotia. I might be getting them mixed up.
Yeah, because there was a Swiss Air.
Yes, that was the one I think that had the gold.
Yeah, because this one was over Ireland, I think it was, or something. Because it was on its way to Europe. Yeah, and I think
Yes.
because I believe it might have been the Swiss Air one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But don't quote us on that one, because we didn't have a chance to research that. That's just off the top of our heads. All right, kids and cubs. Let's see. Prime Minister went from Brussels, quick trip to The Hague for the NATO Summit. It's the first of 2 days of meetings. And of course, the big discussion here is going to be about reaching the target of 5%, which is very important. But also, it's taking place in the context of a war in Ukraine, war in Gaza, and recent developments in the hostilities between Iran and Israel, that allegedly are supposed to be under ceasefire.
Yeah, well.
And people are wondering if there actually really ever was one now, because nothing seems to have really stopped.
a ceasefire for about as long as it took to say those words.
Let's put it this way: this ceasefire didn't even last 1/11 of a Scaramucci.
No, and that's a short stick to measure it by.
Yeah. So there's that sort of mood going in there, and in the discussions, of course, because we want to get to 5%. It seems that the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, was sending some text messages to Donald Trump. If you will get the first clip there ready, Mr. Grizzly.
I can't. You didn't send me anything.
It didn't send. Oh my God! I'm so
I don't
sorry.
have it.
I have it. I have it right here in front of me, and it says send, and I didn't push it.
I figured I'd wait until it got to the point where he needed me to play something that I would say, okay, I'll just let you know that I don't have it yet.
I didn't put no salt and pepper on it. I didn't push it. Oh God.
Well,
and
it happens.
I can't say I'm new here.
No, you can't. No, you cannot.
Oh man. So yeah, it's the bit there that's with Karina Roman in a block B,
Yeah.
Mr. Grizzly, in the instructions there. So Karina Roman from CBC just touched upon it a little bit, and she has some screens, not screen caps, except because they put it on a CBC board. But this is what Mark Rutte had to say, which had a lot of ears prick up.
The summit opens with a reception, which is behind closed doors, and a dinner, which is, I believe, mostly also behind closed doors. And they are all arriving just as it's been confirmed, as you showed part of it there, that a text by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte to Donald Trump that Trump posted on Truth Social, that it is real, that indeed he did write that text, and that text has raised some eyebrows. I believe we have more of the text on a board basically saying, congratulations. First of all, Mr. President, dear Donald, congratulations and thank you for your decisive action in Iran. That was truly extraordinary and something no one else dared to do. It makes us all safer. You are flying into another big success in The Hague this evening. It was not easy, but we've got them all signed on to 5%. Donald, you have driven us to a really, really important moment for America and Europe and the world. You will achieve something no American president in decades could get done. Europe is going to pay in a big way, as they should, and it will be your win. Safe travels and see you at His Majesty's dinner, Mark Rutte. So it was, according to Reuters, Mark Rutte says that the tone in that text was appropriate. That is the reaction we have so far. Now, in terms of this 5% goal that is likely to be adopted or could be adopted, some countries such as Spain and Belgium have balked at such a large target. Canada keeping its cards a little closer to its chest in terms of its opinion on not only the target itself, but whether Canada can make it. Mark Carney did just promise $9 billion in additional defense spending to get Canada just to 2% this year.
I'm just going to pause that right there, and we can come back to it in a minute. That very strange text, massaging the ego of Donald Trump. Dripping with sarcasm, perhaps. I don't know.
I don't know how to read Mark Rutte, to be totally honest. I've seen him in interview a couple times.
He's Dutch and he's Gen X. He was born February 14th, 1967. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's the Gen X screw you boomer. I don't know.
Well,
I honestly don't know.
Remember that meeting that they had? I think it was at Buckingham Palace, where they had the group of 4 people and they were laughing. Mm-hmm. There was Princess Anne. There was Prime Minister Trudeau. Yeah.
So is he trolling him? I
mean, there's another clip that we'll see that has Kate Harrison from I think we might have in it from who's a pundit for the Conservative says, well, it looks like Mark Rutte read The Art of the Deal. Because there was more fluffing in that text message than there is on the movie set of certain films.
It was very, very strange.
I mean, and when I saw it go on social media, right, I thought, okay, yeah, but is this real? Like, yeah, sure. Like Donald Trump wrote this and sent it to himself, clearly, right? Like when he places those phone calls, like from John, what's his name? Like, hi, this is John. Donald Trump is wonderful, and it's like, my
But he
first
did it.
instinct was to do that, and then I like read, and it's like, no, this is authentic. It's
This is
been
real.
BBC authentic. It's like, what the hell?
Well, and Mark Rutte has been involved in politics since, let's see, it's going back to 2003. He's 58 years old, so he's like a year older than me. Yeah, he's been in politics for 22 years. So a seasoned politician. Actually, it's more than that. It goes back to 88. Youth organization, served as chair of the organization from 88 to 91. So he's basically been involved in politics his entire life. Between 93 and 97, he was a member of the national board of the VVD. The VVD is, I'm trying to find out what it is here. I can't understand.
I can look it up.
Yeah. Anyway, he's let's just see, political. Oh, that's the political party, People's Party for Freedom and Democracy.
Yes.
The VVD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's been involved with them since 1993.
Right. Well, he was the prime minister, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of the Netherlands.
He's a very seasoned political veteran, and he's Dutch.
Yes.
So Dutch
and the Dutch are hard to read.
Well, they're hard to read because they normally say exactly what's on their mind. They don't sugarcoat things. They don't, it's like,
yes,
you look very fat in those pants.
Yes.
That's not meant to be an insult. It's stating a simple matter of fact, and they thought they should let you know that perhaps maybe you want to change because that's how the Dutch are.
They're very direct.
Not rude. It's blunt and direct.
Yes. If they like you, you know it. If they don't like you, you know it.
Yes.
But it's not aggressive.
No, it's not.
That's why I love the Dutch.
Even that statement of you look fat in those pants, it's not aggressive. It's not mean-spirited. It's just like you should change because those fat,
they're not flattering. It's not that you're fat. These pants are not flattering.
Exactly. And it's just the way they speak. So for him to gush like that, to me, I think he's just playing to Trump's ego, kind of like, Mark Carney, you've been a transformative president. Well, that's true.
Yes. But this one is like, the world is safer now. It's like, are you sure about that?
Yeah. I think you get more flies with honey than vinegar. Exactly.
I mean, there's an expression in French, mais en pas plus que le client demande. Don't lay it on thicker than the client is requesting. That was thick.
From G. Easton, considering the pissy mood Trump was in before NATO, maybe he figured it was a better way to grease Trump up so he didn't make the meeting a big disaster as per usual. And that might be the thing. Yeah, play to his ego. Play to his ego. I mean, Trump will just lap that up like a...
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like the G7 meeting again, right? Because when he came in, it's like, girl, Felicia's coming to town and she is pissed. Right? I mean, that his bid for the Nobel Peace Prize kind of went up in flames. Not that he was ever a contender. I mean, come on, really. It's like, I saved the world, yeah, and you unleashed the military on your own citizens. I don't think you're a candidate for the prize, buddy. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There might be other factors being considered there.
And here's the thing: is like many people in North America do not get the temperament of the Dutch and their directness. They don't get it. Which fair enough. And if you're in Europe and somebody says something to you that you perceive as rude, somebody go, oh no, he's just Dutch. He's just Dutch. Don't worry about it. That's just the directness of the Dutch. They don't believe in small talk. They don't believe in kowtowing or any of that thing. It's just not who they are. So
yeah, it's like rude. It's like, let's play a game, rude or Dutch. Yeah. Just like we like, let's play a game, gay or European.
Yeah, exactly.
Back on the day.
And so.
And I know for those who are more pedantic, it's like he didn't unleash the military on citizens. He unleashed the National Guard, but really
Yeah.
wanted to because he did call up the Marines. But
He did sent the Marines there. They just didn't come up. But yeah, I think
just to be precise,
it's a troll, but in the sense that he's like, who was it? G. Easton said he's buttering him up.
it's more like it's like this feeling like, okay, everybody, all 31 other members, I'm going to be sending this. Okay, so when you see it, try not to roll your eyes.
Yeah.
Don't pull an orbital muscle. It's like it's
I think that's
right.
That's how we get him there in a good mood, thinking we all love him. We can get some stuff done. Look, we all know he's going to show up and he's going to be there. So we'll just, there. We'll just pat him on the head and send him off to bed with a cookie and milk.
And 2 scoops.
Feed him like Cindy Lou Who.
We're mean today.
Hey, man, he's brought this upon himself.
He had it coming. Oh.
Hyper D007. I found the Swiss to be the rudest Europeans. I understand what you're saying. I've been to Switzerland about 14 times. I have very good friends there. My take on the Swiss are they're just apathetic. The Swiss don't give a shit about anything. Now, well, no, they don't. They're just concerned with themselves. But they are concerned with community because they vote on everything there. They have very good social programs. They have a very good social safety net. They have strong unions. They have strong wage laws. I think the minimum wage 10 years ago was like $28 an hour. So it's also very expensive to live there, but like your needs are met. Your needs are met because you pay taxes for that and you vote on everything in Switzerland. So I think it's less about them being rude and they just don't give a shit about anything but themselves. I remember I was in a pub and a Shania Twain song came on. I said, "Oh, Shania Twain, she's Canadian like me." And they go, "Oh, she's Canadian?" I go, "Yeah." "Oh, that's cool. She lives right over there." "Oh, really?" "Cool." Like nothing. I'm like, she lives 5 minutes from here.
Yep.
Literally. She's probably out on the lake right now in her boat with her guitar writing songs because she does that frequently.
Yep.
And they're like, just don't give a shit. They don't care.
That didn't impress them much.
No. And that's and Geneva is the French sector of Switzerland. If you get closer to like Bern, which is the capital city, Bern is Swiss, German, Italian, Romanish. They speak all the languages in Bern.
Yeah.
Like everybody that lives there speaks like 4 or 5 languages because it's the capital city and those languages are recognized. English, French, Italian, German, and Romanish are all spoken in Switzerland.
Yeah, and of all of them, they're all official languages except for German.
Yes. Yeah,
Swiss German is, but not German.
That's right, Swiss German, which is different.
Yes.
Or what was it?
I dated a Swiss German person once, and I thought, like, oh, I could chance to use my German. And it's like, he could understand me.
Yeah.
The little bit of German I took the 3 months in university, but I couldn't understand.
It's different. It's different. Swiss German is very different. German, but not.
Yeah. And it's more sing-songy.
Well, it's similar to, somebody from France who comes over to Quebec and they're like, I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
And it happens. Spanish that's spoken in Spain is different than the Spanish that's spoken in, say, Peru or Uruguay or Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
It's different. And they have different words for things. Like in this sector of the world, if you need a toilet, you would say baño. Where's the toilet? Baño. You don't say that in Spain. Baño does not mean the same.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if you go over there as a Canadian and say, "Oh, huele baño," they'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
I think they use a variation of the term lavatory or something like that. So I'm not Spanish. I don't speak it. So don't rain hellfire on me, please.
All right. So the part in that message about we got them all to 5%. As Karina Roman mentioned, Belgium has balked at it, and Spain was really like, no, this is not going to happen. And now there are like articles like a Politico that says NATO's new villain, Spain, which means we're off the hook.
Mm-hmm. Well, Spain is like, we want out of NATO. We don't want to get involved in these wars that the United States and keep starting. I'm like,
well, has they said they want out of NATO?
Not the country, but a member of parliament has.
Oh, okay. So, according here to Politico, and this is by Jack Desch, Paul McCleary, and Laura Kayali, Canada used to be NATO's biggest headache for its chronic defense underspending. Now, at this year's summit, everybody agrees Spain's the problem, with Slovakia coming a close second in stoking anger among alliance members. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's 11th hour insistence that his country doesn't need to hit NATO's new 5% of GDP defense spending target and managing to get a carve out in an agreement on the spending goal has turned Madrid into the alliance's new pariah. And I'm sort of like, okay, well, I'm just wondering if this opens the door to a bunch of, well, Spain got one. Did you bring enough for the whole class? Quote, I have no words to express my disgust, one European defense official who, like the others, was granted anonymity to speak candidly, said on the sidelines of the summit. Sanchez was followed by Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico on Monday, who posted on X that his country, quote, has other priorities in the coming years than armament and can get by without increasing spending. At last year's summit in Washington, frustration with Canadian defense spending was high, with Ottawa simply refusing to increase its defense budget to anywhere near NATO's 2% of GDP guideline. The new government of Prime Minister Mark Carney has pledged an extra $9 billion in defense expenditures, finally bringing the country to 2% and getting it out of the alliance's doghouse. The last-minute refusals from Spain and Slovakia came at the start of a summit that NATO leadership has done its best to keep drama-free. Hello, Mark Rutte. It's a reminder to the world that that a 32-nation alliance can be unruly, especially when NATO business bumps up against domestic spending priorities. Spain was just something saying like that. It's just not our ideology or something like that. We just don't see the world that way. It's not our worldview. They also come just hours before U.S. President Donald Trump is set to land in The Hague, ready to take a victory lap as allies fall in line with his hand-picked target. But no matter the domestic audiences that Sanchez and Fico are targeting with their decisions, they're finding little sympathy among the alliance's members gathered in The Hague. Delegates ready for a quick and disciplined two-day event were aghast that the tightly choreographed display of unity might be blown up by a Spanish government, which has been a defense spending laggard, and a Slovak leader who has been critical of Europe's support for Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Quote, socialists, the British lawmaker said of the Spanish, look at their position on Ukraine, hardly one of solidarity or standing behind our shared European security. A Spanish government spokesperson said Madrid would have to raise taxes and cut social programs to finance the defense spending increase, but added that the country does plan to meet NATO's new capability targets. So that would probably be the 3.5%. Even as European officials conceded that Sanchez is in a tight spot at home with his minority government unable to pass a budget with fresh cash for defense, they rejected the Spanish leader's decision to ignore NATO's new spending pledge, due to be officially released on Wednesday. Two European leaders said that all allies have approved NATO's new capability targets that place demands to hit classified goals for troops and weapons each country has to provide. Sanchez has asserted that Spain can hit those targets while it sticks to its current plan to raise defense spending to 2.1% of GDP, but other allies don't see how that's possible. Quote, I can't see anything that creates room for exceptions, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson told reporters on Tuesday. Danish Prime Minister Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen told NATO Public Forum that it wasn't fair for leaders whose country is further from Russia to seek exemptions. Quote, it's a question of being united, of defending Europe, not Poland or the Czech Republic. I disagree with the idea of an opt-out for a country, she said, without specifically naming Spain. And with this, when we're talking about the 5%, the four countries that are most likely to hit it really quickly are Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. Geography oblige.
I think Poland's already there, actually.
Yeah. Well, not quite there yet. None of the countries are there yet, but Poland, which this year aims to spend 4.7% of GDP on defense, is the highest in NATO, and also isn't thrilled with Spain trying to get out of the alliance's spending boost. Quote, we believe that any deviation from this principle by any member country is a bad example, said Polish Defense Minister Władysław Koźmiak-Kamysz before flying to the summit. He called Poland a, quote, model member of the alliance and warned against countries such as Spain trying to broaden NATO's definition of defense spending to include things that are not strictly tied to the military. So, yeah, it's going to be some point of contention. And as Canadians, it's going to be nice to be able to just just sit back and watch it happen and be quiet and demure. But yes, the other wrinkle in this, however, that has popped up is that in media interviews, it seems that either Donald Trump is not aware that the United States is a NATO country?
Well, it would seem.
Because when it comes to the spending of 5%, because even United States isn't there. United States is about 3.3 or 3.4%, right?
Mm.
The United States is now taking the position that, well, 5% is something that the NATO nations need to achieve. But we don't really need to do that because, we've been spending so much all those other years that, but all NATO nations need to achieve 5%, but you are a NATO nation, Blanche. You are. I'm not understanding. So everybody else has got to do it, but we're not. That seems to me to create the permission structure for everybody else not to.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're going to demand it but not do it, then where's the urgency on our part then?
Indeed.
So I'm not quite sure what that U.S. position is and what the reason. He's stunting clearly and showing strength and trying whatever it is, but it's directly counterproductive to the goal if he wants to go around and say, I've got everybody to do it, which he won't be able to do. You should be doing it to increase the odds of that happening if you want to put the odds in your favor. So, yeah, really, really weird.
Mm.
Don't quite understand it. For Canada, moving to 5% would represent about $150 billion a year, every year, in spending on this type of stuff. That does mean that there's a lot of things that are choices that are going to have to be made. So we're not sure how that manifests itself. Now, of course, it depends on the timeline. There are some nations that want to achieve that in the space of 5 years. So by 2029, end of 2029 or something, there seems to be more talk about a 10-year frame. Seems to, at least according to Prime Minister Mark Carney, that seems to be his sense of where the consensus will land. But there are people pushing for that in 5 years. Of course, when we're talking about the 5%, as we've been mentioning on the show, that is divided into two portions, the 3.5% and the 1.5. And as I went further into that article that I was reading a bit, when we're talking about the capability targets, I thought that was the 3.5%. That's not. The capability targets are literally in terms of staffing and how many people, and I guess what amount of readiness that you can have to be able to deploy to help NATO at any given time. So the 3.5% would be an increase on that 2% of GDP for pure core defense spending. And that, as we mentioned on previous shows, the guidelines for that are already well established, right? The list that all countries have agreed to of all the things that you can throw in to that to make the 2%, it would still probably be the same list. It might be modernized a little bit because warfare is modernizing, but it would be those things that everybody already agrees on. Everybody has the same list of menu items that they can tick off and include in that. And that one is pretty established and solid.
Mm.
The 1.5% is a little more murky. It's not clearly defined. So, in that sense, we don't know. In terms of Canada, with regard to that, because everybody's saying, well, hey, wait a minute, if we're going to go from 2% to 5%, that's like more than double. Where are we going to find the money? It would appear, as we mentioned previously on certain shows, that that 1.5% is a place that we are already doing things that can be included in that. So according to the Prime Minister, a little less of about a third of that 1.5% is already being spent in Canada and spent on things that we are doing to bolster our own economic resilience. So, for example, when they're talking about these things, um, the Prime Minister, as many of the kids know, because I've seen it talking, I've seen them talking about it in the chat, gave a very high-profile interview to Christiane Amanpour. For those who are not familiar, she is a very, very noted,
Legendary.
legendary interviewer. if you get a spot on her show, on her agenda, it's because you're a pretty big deal, and what you're talking about really is grabbing the world's attention here. So in this interview, he said a little less than a third of that overall number is spending on things that, quite frankly, we're already doing to build the resilience of our economy. So it can be domestic resilience. It can be defending in areas that support defense, but also supporting other things. So I'll give an example: critical minerals. It is obvious, I think, to everyone now the risk that's run being fully dependent on China for critical minerals, including rare earth, magnets, and others, not just for defense industry, but for the audio industry and others. Canada has one of the biggest and most varied deposits of critical minerals. We're going to develop those. We're going to develop those in Canadian interests. We're going to develop some of them in partnership with the European Union itself and the European member states, with the UK, other partners. Some of the spending for that counts towards the 5%. In fact, a lot of it will count towards that 5% because it's infrastructure spending. It's ports and railroads and other ways to get these minerals out. So that's something that benefits the Canadian economy, but is also part of our new NATO responsibilities. So I'm not trying to downplay it. I think the other thing I would say is, where we sit today collectively, we NATO countries are likely to agree to the other component of that 2% going to the 3.5% in 10 years. But the nature of warfare is changing very rapidly. We just look at what's happening in Ukraine. You don't need an aircraft carrier anymore. Well, some do, but most of us don't. You need drones, and you need the integration of drones with your cyber capabilities, your broader air satellite capabilities. We're making a commitment, but we're not locking ourselves in. We're not signing a bunch of post-dated checks for the hardware, military hardware of today, to protect our citizens. So, if the basic thinking here is that if you need critical minerals to go into some weaponry, well, you have to mine it. Well, if you need a road to get it from the mine, and if you need to change some stuff at a port to get it onto a boat, all of that infrastructure that helps the military stuff happen will count to that 1.5%.
Well, that's how some countries in Europe have been able to bring theirs up to 5% by saying, oh, okay, so you want to be able to bring your tanks and trucks across these roads and bridges? We have to spend billions upgrading these roads and bridges to meet the requirements and the specifications for those vehicles to drive across, because a lot of them just simply can't handle the weight.
Right.
So that is what is taking place in a lot of European Union nations, where they are just beefing up their road and bridge infrastructure to support the military transport of any type of military vehicles, and it goes directly to NATO spending, which is creative accounting, but at the same token, legitimate.
Well, if you can't get the stuff, what's the point of building the munitions if you can't export them to where they need to go?
Exactly, right? So it's legitimate. It's creative accounting, but it is legitimate.
Yeah. So yeah,
I want that accountant.
But in that sense, but again, that part only counts to that 1.5%. You can't take that road and then count it as the core.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, after, once we built the port and once we build the roads and once we then what do we spend 1.5% on every year? This is a recurring annual. Now, of course, these roads and all these other things like this, some of these might be 3, 4, 5, 6-year projects. This is not going to be a discussion that's going to happen at the next NATO meeting afterwards. Okay, well, now we spent the 1.5%. Oh my God. But there's going to be a time where, right? Now, there are some other things, exactly, Kajillion, right there. Infrastructure renewal is also necessary for mitigating the impacts of climate change. And there might be a way for some of that to be included as well. Because if you have to protect the places where all this manufacturing is going on, or you have to protect the ports, or you have to protect the railways from, or your pipelines or whatever, or your corridor, or your shipping routes from the effects of climate change, whatever you do there, then is infrastructure spending that does help. And if that's the case, well then, trust me, we're set for the next 20, 30 years. If we also include, for example, because a lot of the minerals are involved or located on Indigenous land, any infrastructure spending that would be spent to improve life in Indigenous communities, because according to the chief of the AFN, there's about a $342 billion infrastructure deficit in Indigenous communities compared to everywhere else in Canada. And well, if that's where the stuff that you need is, then those upgrades could also, maybe one could make a case, would be included in that 1.5%. So if that is the case indeed, well then that's we're gonna have no problem in a country the size of ours meeting that infrastructure budget.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So the thing is that with Mark Carney, as we are seeing again, when we're looking at the various pieces of all the things that he's trying to do, he is trying to get a lot of 2-for-1 benefit here, right? Okay, we're going to develop this mine for rare earths. Well, the rare earths, high value exports, economy of the future, also matters for the defense. Got to build the road. Well, hey, that's a make work project that we can use Canadian elements to do that, create some additional economic activity in Canada to fight what's going on with the United States and all the ways that they're trying to upend us. And then, so almost everything that he does, it seems, helps meet one goal and meet another at the same time. So he seems to have really thought about really how to maximize bang for the buck.
Mhm.
Right? Hey, if you can do things, right? I hate saying hit two birds with one stone because I like the birds, but if you're trying to hit two birds with one stone, this is essentially what he's doing. Almost every plan has one of those things, right? When he was talking about the housing industry, well, yeah, but that will be using our lumber too. And well, Trump said, well, he doesn't need our lumber anymore. So, well, then we have to find other uses for it now, don't we?
Oh, well, I think there's several places in Europe that would be happy to purchase our lumber because, what was it? The story somebody told me while I was in London a few years ago. And oftentimes the trains will stop in the UK because too many leaves get on the track or branches get on the track and they have to sweep them away and the trains get delayed. And it's like they asked the Germans, well, how come that never happens in Germany? They said, well, we just cut all the trees down. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've ridden the train all throughout Europe, and trust me when I say this, you can go for hundreds of kilometers at a stretch and not see anything bigger than a bush. Like there's no trees. They're just not there. Whereas if you take the train in Ontario all the way down to Halifax, you're going to see nothing but trees the entire way. Now, as you get out onto the prairies, it changes a bit. But if you get, once you get back in past the Rockies and into BC, same thing, boreal forest. So we have lots of trees, like lots of trees, like so many trees.
Yes, indeed.
And hang on.
Mhm.
And we have thousands of Canadians across the country right now planting new ones. Because I'm sure you've known people who've gone tree planting.
Oh yeah.
As summer employment, and that's been going on for 50 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, my beloved Bridget, did it for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So it's we're always replanting in Canada.
Indeed. So yeah, if we do you have the next clip, Mr. Grizzly?
Oh, I do. Yes.
Ready? Okay. So this is a bit from Power and Politics, and basically, I believe that this is an interview, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit of a chat with Jenny Carignan, our Chief of Defense Staff, asking about her take on certain things here.
required. Okay, let's talk a bit more about the big picture, military spending for Canada. We all understand that the objective for this NATO meeting is to get countries to all agree to 5% of GDP devoted to the military. We've heard about a whole range of timelines, one of them being 2029. Given the staffing challenges, and I know you noted they're improving, but they're still significant procurement challenges, do you believe it's possible for Canada to spend that much money in just the next 4 years?
So what the foundation that we are presently building is ensuring that we have the people and we have a solid foundation upon which we can build additional capabilities and grow the Canadian Armed Forces. Of course, the plan also involves ensuring that our defense industrial base is also well prepared and resourced to take on additional production or capacities. So it is really a holistic plan to ensure that the foundations are well laid out. And should we be in a posture where more is required, then we'll be able to respond. But it will be important to have a long-term plan in order to get there.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, and I appreciate you say there's work to do, the work is ongoing, but there are limits to how quickly Canada can hit the gas, are there not?
So it is clear that we cannot do everything all at the same time, but also there is already a significant number of new capabilities that are already being programmed and built as we speak. So we can take our new frigates as an example, are under construction. We have new systems as part of the NORAD modernization system, uncrewed air vehicles, maritime is in the same type of situation. So we have a lot of new projects already ongoing.
Okay.
Now it's about ensuring that we keep up with the pace that they are required.
You gave us a list there.
All right. So, again, Chief of Defense Staff seeming to have some confidence that this is something that will be able to be done. Later on, she is asked about the Golden Dome a little bit, and she talks about, that we already do a lot of work with regard to detection and interception, and that there's a need for complementary systems, and that it could be more efficient for Canada and the US to do this together because missiles know no borders.
Mhm.
And then he's asked a little bit more about that in the following clip that we have here, and goes into a little more detail on whether or not this would be a good use of
Doing this.
the money.
I hear what you're saying, General Carignan. I wonder, though, I mean, it is such an extraordinary amount of money that the President has talked about. To what extent does Canada really need this thing? I mean, if we are indeed talking about billions upon billions of dollars, I know the figures have changed, what would you say to Canadians about why that would be a good place to put all that money?
So we already have committed a lot of investments towards the modernization of NORAD, which includes sensors, it includes new fighters, it includes, again, UAVs and other space systems as well, over-the-horizon radars. So we are already investing significantly into our sovereignty. So again, we need to understand that our geography does not protect us as well as it used to. And again, with adversaries who now are clearly adopting an aggressive posture, it is clear that we have to make sure that we are well protected.
You told.
Right. Now, in that comment, Kits and Cubs, with regard to the over-the-horizon radar, the reason why it's very, very important, it's pretty much in the name. So if you think of the Earth, right, it's a sphere. So when we're looking at things coming up to us from the top, right now with detection systems that we have that are just straightforward, once we get to the top, that's where our view ends. So if Russia is sending something, um, while we might get a signal that something has been launched somehow, I guess we don't get to see it until it crosses the top pole,
Mhm.
which reduces our reaction time. So over the horizon radar allows us to actually see above that, and not only there, but like into the water as well. So if there's something that comes from there, which then gives us some extra lead time, which is very, very critical in order to be able to respond, because those missiles travel very quickly.
Yeah, they do. That's
I think it's like 111 kilometers a minute or something. or something.
It's rocket engines, right? So,
Right. So, so it is very important that we have that. Like I said, we're going to be upgrading the sensors and all that kind of stuff. And there's a whole bunch of work we do with NORAD, and a lot of that stuff can be factored in. It's not like the Golden Dome would be like a whole system that we go by and then we install. Right. It's a combination of all these different measures put together, and they're interoperable in such a way that you get full coverage. So a lot of this stuff, again, a lot of the elements that could be included is stuff that we are doing for our own selves
Mhm.
already, that can be included in there. But again, because geography, um, and again, if a missile comes up top, will it stop in Toronto, or will it go all the way to Washington, D.C.? Uh, you don't
we still
want
want
to,
to stop it.
yeah,
We want to stop.
you don't want to wait to find out,
No, no.
right? So,
Well, it's not our problem. It's just going to sail right over. No, 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 no. It's still our problem. Believe me.
yeah. So there are certain things, again, we're probably going to have to do in connection with the United States in some way, shape, or form. Now, whether or not it officially gets called Golden Dome or eventually gets rebranded as something else down the line, especially if we can get rid of that guy at some point, I guess. But it's not like it is not necessary.
Mhm. It won't. It wouldn't if we were to get bombarded. Let's say Putin lost his mind and launched everything at us. Even if this dome was in place, it would not catch everything because of the fact that you're trying to defend the second largest nation on Earth, Canada, land wise, and then you're incorporating the United States into that as well, which is not a tiny country. So, Israel is a very small country.
Yeah.
They can arm themselves to the teeth and catch darn near everything.
Right.
Well, and many of the times the missiles, the rockets that they get launched and that get launched into Israel, they catch them by diverting them or knocking them out or exploding them. But also, oftentimes, they'll let the ones go through that will not hit any major infrastructure or population base. They'll just ignore those and go after the ones that could do most harm. It's difficult to guard an area as large as Canada and the United States in this Star Wars type scenario.
Yeah.
So.
So, I mean, like I'm seeing the comments in the chat here, right? Could be financially lucrative to building self-defense, yes. And as Kit Tom here says, it's great for the defense industry. Yes, it is. But it does nothing for the public welfare. Directly, probably not.
I'd say
Indirectly, again, if environmental mitigation stuff does count towards defense and security or whatnot, well, then there is a public welfare element to environmental. If in the process of protecting the port, your house doesn't get flooded,
Mhm.
there's a social welfare thing. In terms of business activity, if it is financially lucrative and it does boost our GDP, there is more money for social programs. However, on the other side of the ledger, if we are boosting spending to about $150 billion a year, and
Mhm.
whatever profits we have to go there first, then social welfare. So that's what I mean. We don't really know what this fully looks like yet.
No. Well, and here's the statement from Saucy Seawitch. While Carney and the government are making their moves globally and nationally, we should be making moves locally to make ourselves stronger. Food security, addressing poverty and services. Yes. And who is responsible for that? Two branches, municipal government, provincial government.
Right.
Exactly. And are they doing anything about it? Well, not here in Ontario. I can't speak to Nova Scotia, but
And I believe, as Kit Bucky mentioned, and we posted already as a chyron there, there's also the 0.7% target
Mhm.
on foreign aid,
Correct.
which is the soft power, which also has some defense implications there.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
right.
you need defense contractors at least to distribute aid in many of the countries where we're trying to distribute the aid, because
Yeah.
warlords will come in and take it for themselves and sell it.
But also, again, the whole point of a lot of this foreign aid is to stop problems over there so the problems don't come over here,
Yes. Yeah.
which there could be some strategic.
Well, and the United States of America has just invited a whole lot of problems on their doorstep by cutting off USAID. Trump is an idiot,
Yeah.
informed by idiots.
Yeah. And other stuff too, not only that, like, but Voice of America, cutting that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
and that's been
he-
around forever.
Yeah, he cut it, then realized at one point a couple of days ago, it's like, oh, yeah, maybe we still need it for Iran. Bring the Persian people back. And then did it for a couple of days, and apparently Friday cut more of Voice of America all over, including some of the Persian stuff, because I guess he thought he had a ceasefire, so I guess we don't need you anymore. There were people that came back like from break or from lunch and like had the, yeah, you don't have a job now.
Yeah.
I'm
It's like the folks who didn't know if they were fired, so they showed up to work on Monday, and their passes wouldn't allow them into the building. Oh, you've been fired. What? Yeah, that yeah, Doge. Speaking of Doge, I got to Doge. I'm trying to say go, but I was trying to segue it, but I got to take my Doge out, so I have to go.
Right.
It wasn't very good.
I was just about to ask you too, because I saw the time there. I was like,
I do have to roll. I got to take Ms. Lola out because she needs to go. And thankfully, it's only 30 degrees right now with the humidex, so it's not too bad. I know. Only 30 degrees.
Only 30 degrees.
It was 45 yesterday, 47 the day before. So, there, and I honestly, I don't complain about it. I'm just like, yeah, it's pretty hot out. And someone's like, oh, it's too hot. I'm like, no, it's never too hot because it's always too cold. That's my take. And I like winter. I like winter sports. But if I could wear flip-flops and shorts year-round, yes. Now, I did say to Bridget yesterday, I said, it's so stinking hot out today, I want to just go out in my Speedo and flip-flops, and that's it. I don't think I think somebody would be offended by that because, delicate sensibilities of certain individuals who pretend like they didn't live through the 70s. Those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s remember a time when Speedos or banana hammocks or budgie smugglers, whatever you want to call them, were the only type of bathing attire that was available for men. It changed in the early 90s, I think. Late 80s, early 90s, when board shorts became the thing.
Mm-hmm.
People are just too bashful these days for my taking. Anyway. Actually, Carolyn, and if we can go topless, well, yeah, and men and women can go topless. So why can't I wear my Speedo? I did get some funny looks from people last summer when I was in Calgary, and we were just taking the boat out of the water, and this was me standing on the sideline. And some of the looks I got, there was family sitting there, like, aren't you embarrassed? Nobody said anything, but I could see the look on their faces, and all I thought was, what? I'm wearing my bathing attire. I just got out of the river. What do you want from me? That's your uncomfortable mindset, not mine. I'm not bashful and I'm not shy. I'm very comfortable with who I am. And on that note, I hope you're comfortable with who you are. I have got to go. So
Smooth, sir.
Take care.
Well done. All right, kids and cubs. So continuing on, there was a segment on Power and Politics yesterday where they were talking to certain pundits, and we had Kate Harrison, who is the pundit from representing the Conservative Party here, who was talking and making a comment, when asked about whether 5% was in Canada's best interest, and was giving a solid answer, and then somewhere in there decided to slip in some partisanship where and with some smugness to it, uh, thinking like, well, gee, it's really interesting that Mark Carney is talking about there being future revenues from exploiting critical minerals, because I remember during the election that he was mocking Pierre for having included that in his costing. Um, no, 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 no. Nobody disagreed that there could be future revenues from critical minerals. That's not going out on a limb there. The difference between Prime Minister Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre was that Pierre Poilievre quantified the amount and put it in his costing as if it was something that he knew for sure was going to be realized. You can't do that. You can't do that. To say if we exploit critical minerals and are able to take them out of the ground and get them to market, that there would be future revenues that we can count on. Yes, that's a fair statement. How much they will be specifically and when they will materialize and be put in the ledger, that's the economically irresponsible part. And that's what Pierre Poilievre did. And that's the thing for which he was mocked and raked over the coals and laughed at and all that kind of stuff. Not the fact that he assumed that there would be. Right? So conservatives tend to do this a lot these days in their rhetoric. We saw one with Lisa Raitt the other day too. And, it's like, wow, all of a sudden, gee, we're spending so much more in defense. Like we always said, no. It wasn't that you guys had this great idea that everybody mocked. Everybody agreed that we needed to do that too. The how and the how fast and the when and the why and all that kind of stuff. That was different. But that it had to be done. No. So conservatives are still on this bent here where, it's like it's so great that he's stealing all our ideas. It's like, it's just a shame that he didn't recognize that these were good ideas at the time that we first mentioned them. You can both have an idea, but then how you plan to implement that idea or how you account for that idea or how you sell the idea, how you connect the idea, there are differences there. So when a liberal and a conservative have the same idea with regard to cutting taxes, well, which tax and how much and how fast is the issue. If we remember their battle of the tax cuts when Pierre first said, when Mark Carney said, we will give 1% off the board like this. And Pierre goes, well, I'm going to give 2.25%. It's like, okay. Mark Carney, 1% now. Pierre, 1.125% now. And then the other 2 years from now. So pre-committing us to taking that money out of our budget 2 years before it's even known that it's needed, and more than doubling the amount that Carney had. That might not have been the wisest decision at this particular time. So yes, they both had an idea for a tax cut. Did Mark Carney steal Poilievre's idea for a tax cut? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows if the Liberals had any intention of giving one before Pierre said he was. Maybe it was just a move to neutralize it strategically. But those tax cuts were not the same. There wasn't the same philosophy behind them in terms of the quantity and how to do it. So this is the same thing here at play, just because they both knew that critical minerals needed to be exploited and that there would be future revenues from it. Going so far as to quantify how much those revenues would be and in what fiscal year they would actually materialize, that you can actually add them to your accounting, that's was the problem, and that's what they got laughed at for. So always be careful when you're listening to the conservative take on this. Um, what you include and what you leave out matters. Yes, and there's a lot of selective editing from the conservatives on these points. So just a little media literacy there. In that discussion further on, however, and she does make a good point here, is that without a budget, and I know the conservatives have been harping on this, but in this particular case, without a budget, they do have a point at the moment, that $9 billion that we're spending now and whatever we commit to that we're going to factor in later, like this, there are going to be some trade-offs, right? We're not going to jump from whatever we are spending now on defense to about $150 billion a year. Yes, that amount of money in 10 years without doing certain things. We're going to have to generate more economic activity, yes, and all that kind of stuff. We're probably going to have to find some efficiencies, however many there are. Yes, there are probably some programs that become obsolete, that the money can then be reshifted. I guess there will probably be an issuance of some bonds, right? In this case, for issuance of bonds, we do have a certain advantage with what we're doing here, and this is Lisa Raitt who brought this point up in another discussion, that because we're doing this rearm thing and having all of this involvement militarily now with Europe, it does create another market for our bonds. It's not just the market in the United States and maybe the rest of the world comes in, but now European investors would have a vested interest in wanting to buy some Canadian bonds because the money from the bonds is being used for military equipment and development and manufacturing and other types of stuff that is taking place both in Canada and in Europe. If we buy some submarines from South Korea rather than Germany, for example, well, that opens up an Asian market that might be interested in buying our bonds. And so that's one advantage, and one that she did not mention, but one that does exist because of what is happening with United States credit rating, and especially if they get that one big beautiful bill, because the Senate has finished negotiating its part of it. And while the Senate, it's not the original bill that Donald Trump wanted, and there are different types of cuts and that type of stuff, the one thing that the House and the Senate did not cut and did not touch was the amount of tax cuts that Donald Trump originally wanted to give to those who are already obscenely wealthy. So whatever passes, if it does pass, once that goes on the books and the credit agencies see what's going to happen, right? And remember, in that bill, the tax cuts for overtime and the tax cuts for tips, which turns out are not as much as they want because there's some extra fine print added in. Those ones sunset in 2028, but the tax cuts do not. Those are permanent. So when the credit agencies get hold of that, and let's say the United States has another drop in credit rating, that influences desirability for our bonds. So we will have a more diversified market for our bonds that we would put out by virtue of the fact that we are doing increasing business with other nations who might want to invest in our bonds. But there might be an interest rate advantage as well with regard to us. And there could as well be just a stability and security advantage. Because you probably want to buy your bonds from a country that has a better credit rating because it increases the odds that you will actually get paid the interest on those bonds. So raising the money, if the United States keeps on tanking itself economically, might not actually be as difficult as a lot of people are assuming now, because those bonds will be issued over time. And as these spreads get larger over time and our bonds become even more attractive and the demand increases, so there could be situations where, being able to absorb this cost actually becomes easier over time than we would suspect it if we're just using the numbers of the economy today and inserting them in the blanks to come up with a rough calculation. Those numbers have a potential of changing dramatically enough and in our favor. So the whole cost argument with that, it's important and we do need to pay attention to it because there are some trade-offs. But know in this when they're trying to make you panic that there might be something else at play coming down the road and an improving situation for us. Another example of that that's going on right now is the whole thing about our move to make it such that in 2035, all new cars that will be sold in Canada will be electric and none will be gas. And they're calling it a car ban. It's gas. It's not a car ban. You'll still be able to buy a gas car. They'll be used at that point, but you'll still be able to buy them. But what they're doing right now is like, there's a decision that's going to be made in 2035. You need to panic about it now. Send us money now. That's like with no consideration of the fact that, hey, if 6 years from now, right, we realize, hey, we're not really there. We probably won't meet that 2035 target. That target can be pushed back. Right? It can be altered. We're not stuck. It's not like we tied our hands. There's plenty of runway, plenty of lead time to make adjustments along the way. But they want you to panic about something that's going to happen in 10 years now to get your money now. Don't give them your money or your data. Not for that. Because so much can change. So much can change between now and then. And we can make adjustments. So conservatives like to live in this world that's static, right? It's like the situation that exists now is the situation that's going to exist in 10 years, or that's going to be the same for the exact 10 years. So if something's bad now, it's still going to be bad for 10 years from now. How are we going to afford this? Like we have no agency whatsoever to make changes, to improve the odds or improve the conditions. We do. So just remember when they're trying to push that fear and panic button so that you bypass your rational center, I guess, and then open up your wallet. We've got some time here with certain of these things. We can adjust, right? And, things happen in the world 5 years from now, right? We might be doing really well, and there might be other nations that turn around and say, that 5%, we might not be able to make that, or that 3.5%, yeah, that's not happening. We might need to move this from 10 to 12 years or 13. That could still happen, right? So it's important to have a view and a plan, but then there are also contingencies, and we also have to allow for the possibility that things could get more difficult and worse, right? Defense spending, we say it's going to cost this much, and then it always ends up costing more. So that might make it so that it's still not affordable, even with additional benefits or changing economic conditions that sway in our favor. And it could also be that if we are indeed professionalizing ourselves a little bit, that there are additional economic benefits that come from that are unforeseen, or that are larger than we expected, or that other nations do things that set them a little further back, which give us an extra leg up, that then get factored in, right? All these things are good. An example of that is when people are looking at their mortgage renewals a couple of years ago. People, when our interest rates were a little higher before the recent bunch of cuts, everybody was going, "Oh my God, we're going to be renewing at that when it happens." Well, there's been 2.25% interest rate cut over the last little bit. So now the Governor of Bank of Canada, for example, is saying, well, yes, we were concerned about the mortgage renewal and the cliff and that kind of stuff. We're not as concerned about it anymore. There is going to be some impact, but it's not going to be anywhere near as devastating because of the cuts we just made over the past year and a half. So things do change, right? They're called projections, and they happen over a long time for a certain reason, but it doesn't mean that the situation is static. So if people are talking to you about it and say, you need to be concerned about this and look at this and keep an eye on this and be vigilant, that's one thing. You need to look at this and you need to panic. That's a whole other thing. So again, when people tell you need to panic, rather than just panicking, you need to stop and say, wait a minute, do I need to panic here? First, all right? So because you're going to be hearing a lot of things over the next while this is going through. And there's going to be a lot of people saying, presenting the worst doom and gloom possible scenario. And it may not be that. ultimately, or things might not end up playing that way in the end. So just manage your cortisol levels, I would say. In the discussion, Émilie Nicolas as well was making the point that another thing that happens is that we tend to squirrel a lot on what the issues are of national importance. That was a couple of years ago. Everything was about climate change, and now we're almost not talking about it. And then COVID happened, and then all of a sudden, when we're talking about that, oh yes, we need to change things, for global health in case because there will be another pandemic another day. And a couple of years later, what are we doing about that? Last year, everything was about foreign interference. That kind of fell off a cliff, and we didn't really do anything or make any adjustments now, did we? So this could be another similar situation. Right? Defense, and then something comes along, squirrel, and all of a sudden we're not talking about that target anymore. So right now, because it's really close, we're looking at the tree and not the forest, and it's like, oh my God, look at all these wars coming in. There's a tyrant here and a tyrant there and a tyrant everywhere. You get a tyrant, everybody gets a tyrant. We need to shore up. That may not be the situation 4 or 5 years from now. Things can change. So, but that is an element there. And again, with regard to climate change, as we mentioned, if some of the mitigation that we're doing to address climate change can be factored into that 1.5% of infrastructure, well, then that helps us get there. And there are things that we're probably going to need to do anyway. So if there are things that we're going to be needing to do anyway, and we are planning to do them, and we can get them to count towards that, then that's not necessarily additional money out of the budget going somewhere that's not going somewhere else, because we were already planning to do that. We just get to count it twice. Now, with regard another issue that's coming up at the NATO Summit, of course, will be Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, who will be there. And this time it would seem that he will have an opportunity to meet with the president of the United States, because it didn't happen at the G7. Donald Trump left before Zelensky technically officially arrived. Christiane Amanpour had asked Mark Carney in the interview, if the United States walks away, do you think Russia will win? And Mark Carney said, no. The short answer is no. And then she asked, do you think Trump will keep giving weapons to Ukraine? And he says, I'll leave that to the U.S. to determine, but there's other measures that can be taken. So first off, have we forgotten about Ukraine? Absolutely not. As you mentioned, President Zelensky was at the G7. At the G7, Canada announced a major package of new financial sanctions against Russia, major defense support, major support for the Ukraine budget. The European Union is launching its 18th package of sanctions, which will have very significant impacts on the financial sector in Russia. If you remember, we announced $2 billion for armaments, munitions, and stuff like that, and then an extra $2.3 million in loan guarantees to uphold the Ukrainian budget and make sure that there's various infrastructure and stuff that can be taken care of. And I've got a little clip here from the interview where Christiane Amanpour presses a little bit with regard to our actions with Ukraine. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is up there. Yep, okay, going to put it on a large screen for you, and here we go.
Hugely important here. It is a war. Are you going to try to persuade Trump to keep supporting Ukraine militarily? Yes, absolutely. Because it is. It's not. Yes, we have a diaspora, and it's, of course, that's important, and there's personal ties. But this is about rule of law. It's about territorial integrity. It's about support for democracy, and it has it does have those wider implications. It's also it has real security implications for much of Europe. We are at NATO. We have under Article 5, we have responsibilities to each other. We take those responsibilities seriously. That's why we're here. So there's many factors. Personally, I think in Canada, we would start and stop at the human. We don't need all those other responsibilities in order to supplement or to make the case for supporting Ukraine. Perhaps in the United States, a few other jurisdictions, they need all of those elements, but those elements exist. And so, yes, we'll make a very strong case to the president.
So there you go, kids and cubs. our commitment there is rather unwavering. And the Prime Minister saying, we don't need any reasons in here in Canada other than just the human element to convince us that this is the right thing to do and that this is what we're going to do. Other countries might need more convincing, but the elements to make that case are definitely there. So just a interesting position there with regard to the United States. The other thing about this spending kits and cubs that's important to remember is that all these other nations are putting that 5% in, and even if the United States decides that it doesn't want to go in there, there might be still a vested interest in us doing it because a discussion that might not be being held out loud but might be happening in the corridors is we need to do this regardless of what the United States does in case one day the United States turns on us. So, there's a lot of this rearm Europe stuff and whatnot. It's being presented and packaged to us in the sense that, great economic opportunity. We're diversifying, building new relationships, all that kind of stuff. But there might be a part of that where they're whispering in the corridors amongst themselves. We have no idea what this guy is going to do. So, we got to make sure that we're okay. Because we don't know who he's going to turn on next. So, all that wanting to annex Canada talk may have snapped a couple of people to attention there. In this interview, again, Christiane Amanpour did ask Prime Minister Carney whether or not Donald Trump, in his conversations with him, has been talking about 51st state, and Mark Carney very, very firmly said that that's not happening. Given the President of the United States' behavior at the G7, where he didn't say a damn word about it when he was on this side of the border, but as soon as he got back on the other side of the border, started talking about it again in order to get some press, would probably lead me to believe that he knows that it's a topic that he had better not broach with our particular Prime Minister because it is unwelcome. So I would have no reason to doubt the Prime Minister on that statement. All right, kids and cubs. That is the end of our episode today. We hope that you liked listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about this. We appreciate when you do. And when you share something with some words of your own, that helps us a lot. So thank you for your help with that. If you would like to be sure that you do not miss a single episode because you might be a busy beaver or cub on the go, making things happen and being engaged in your community, you don't have to because we are portable and you can take us with you. Thanks to the Ray Girl who has sponsored our pod page. If you are listening, you go to podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagerBeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you are watching, you can scan that QR code. If you go there and click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you, to your favorite podcast feed. You don't even have to go searching. We make it easy because we like to help. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, well then, Kits, Elaine, and Cassie would be beckoning you to take a visit to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. If you give them a little tickle, that too helps us with the algorithm. So thank you for all your support. And of course, there's a comment section there where you can leave us a little note and let us know what you think. So please do visit our YouTube page. And if you're able to join us Monday through Friday around 7 a.m. Eastern Time, you can chat live with the best DAMFAM in all of podcasting, who are right there. Lovely bunch of people, very informed, very intelligent about a whole bunch of things, not just politics. Sometimes there's discussions about gardening and other stuff and recipes and stuff and other things, but it's a very, very supportive community, and it's a lovely place to be. So if you're not there and you have the ability to be there, you're missing out. All right. If you would like to help us in yet another way, kids and cubs, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. And if you scan the QR code that just appeared, that will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee.com/eagerbeaver. And if you go there, you will find the Emergency Hydration Fund tip jar. where every day, we fight the scourge that is dry beaver. So if you would like to make a contribution to make your favorite beaver moist, especially in this heat, parched beaver, ah, well then, if you would like that, we would be very, very grateful for your donation. Thank you so much for all that you do to help us with the show. It really means the world to us. Kids and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Again, if you are able to donate to our fellow Canadians who are affected by the wildfires in Manitoba and in Saskatchewan, there is a drive with the Red Cross, and we would be very, very helpful for your assistance there. The donation period for matching is coming to an end very soon, so this would be the good time to get your donation in if you haven't yet, and you would do that by going to either the Red Cross website at www.redcross.ca, sending an email to WeCare, all in one word, at redcross.ca, or dialing the Red Cross at 1-800-418-1111. And remember, any donation that you make to the wildfire appeal for Manitoba up until June 27th, so only 2 more days, every dollar donated will become 3 because the government of Manitoba and the government of Canada are matching. And if you are donating to the wildfire appeal for Saskatchewan from May 30th to June 29th, so a couple of extra days there, every $1 will be donated will become 2, matched by the government of Canada. So there you go. Please have an do a little bit if you have a little extra to be able to help your fellow Canadians. It is the right neighborly thing to do. Words of wisdom. I think Mr. Grizzly definitely said them. And for me, it would just be if you're in a place of high heat, remember, stay cool. If you are still in a place that's affected by wildfires, please make sure that you are at the ready to be able to evacuate if needed. And if the air quality is terrible, if you can, please do stay inside. Very, very important. Practice your self-care and make sure that you and your loved ones are safe and have the ability to remain so. That's really what matters. We love you all in one piece, and we want to keep you all and have you all coming back. So please do what is needed to take care of yourselves. All right. Kids, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, kids and cubs, if you can all give me a Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. That would make me very, very happy. On 1, 2, 3. Oh my. Dang. There was some harmony there, kids and cubs. I like that very much. Well, hey, who am I to deny you? You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Cubs, before we go, a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. The 3-on-3 World Cup basketball tournament is still on. Unfortunately, a tough day for Team Canada, the women's team today. Lost both their matches to France and to Hungary. The match against France was a really tough loss because Team Canada was leading, and one of the players, unfortunately, I think got elbowed or something in the ribs somewhere along the way and had to step out for a couple of minutes while they were checking on her. And during that time, France was able to catch up and won by just 1 point on that one. And then the match against Hungary did not go Team Canada's way after that. So Team Canada, the women's team, is now 2-2. With, I think, I'm not sure if they have one more match to play yet in pool play, but 2-2 after today's round of playing. At Wimbledon, Alexis Galarneau, who was the only Canadian man left in the qualifying draw, lost his match today, 6-3, 6-2, so there will be no additional men in the draw. For the women, Kayla Cross lost yesterday, so she will not be there. So did Rebecca Marino, but Carson Branstein, who we talked to you about a couple of weeks ago, who had at a tournament, I think she was 200 something in the world, and was playing the number 18 in the world, Ludmila Samsonova, and defeated her, is in the draw here, and her first round match was against Louise Boisson, who we talked to you about, was the French woman who had this dream run in the, missed the French Open last year and was 300 something in the world and just ran, I think, all the way to the semifinal or something. She was in the first round of qualifications for Wimbledon and was the number 1 seed there, and Carson Branstein took her out. So that's twice now in a couple of weeks that she takes out a top 100 player in the world. She, unfortunately, in the second round, she's playing Bianca Andreescu, so only one of them will be able to go forward. So that will be another Canadian woman who won't be able to make the main draw. But Carson Branstein has taken the first set from Andreescu in a tiebreaker, 7-3. So she's doing pretty well there. Victoria Mboko, who we were talking about yesterday, playing her first professional tour match on grass, and we're suspecting that maybe that would be a little more difficult. She lost the first set, but was able to come back in the second and the third and won her first round match. So she's still in the draw. So there's a possibility still of 2 Canadian women emerging from the qualifying draw into the main draw at Wimbledon. But of course, that's at a Grand Slam qualifying is 3 rounds, and right now we're just in the second round, so still a long way to go and a lot of work to do. At the Gold Cup of soccer yesterday, Team Canada was taking on Team El Salvador and was able to score the victory. It was a 2-0 victory for Team Canada, which means that they move to the playoff round at the top of their pool, and they will be facing Guatemala in the quarterfinals on Friday, and looking for a matchup in the semifinal against either the United States or Costa Rica, depending on who wins that one. And finally, at the AHL for the Calder Cup, it was in Game 6 the other night, and the Abbotsford Canucks did win, so they are the Calder Cup champions. So congratulations to everyone who did very well in all their respective pursuits. There's also a bit of sad news. The Canadian Paralympic team has relayed their sadness at learning of the passing of Canadian Paralympic Hall of Famer Garrett Hickling, affectionately known as G. Hickling was a trailblazer in wheelchair rugby, an influential leader on and off the court. He competed at 5 Paralympic Games and was one of the best ever to play the game. And we have here for you just a little bit, some images here of the fine gentleman who is proud so much during the 5 Olympics. So just have some images for you here. So yes, our condolences to his friends and family and all those who loved him and cared for him. I think that is everything I have for you today, kids and cubs. So we will be joining you again tomorrow. I hope that you have a wonderful day and keep cool. All right? Amour et gros bisous. And now I must, like magic, vanish.